Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 3 live session. We're very excited. We are halfway done with your externship. Can you guys believe that? Halfway there. So on this live session, we're going to talk a little bit about working in a professional kitchen. But before that, Jane Jepson from Career Services is here to talk to you. So there you go, Jane.
Hi, again, I'm Jane. I'm with Career Services, and I'm so excited. I always get so excited with our externs because you're so close to completing your program, and it's such an exciting time. You've got 3 weeks left. So what I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes talking about how to really finish the program strong and then make the most of your certificate once you graduate. So I have a little presentation, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and share a PowerPoint presentation with you. And let's just see. I always have trouble sharing my screen. There it is. Okay, great. So basically, you're about halfway there. Some of you are, let me get to my original screen. Some of you may be really close to completing all of your 150 hours. Others of you, and especially those of you in Texas that have had some issues, boy, you might be struggling a little bit and a little bit concerned about your hours. So I just want to reassure everyone that you're going to get through this, and there's strategies that we can implement to make sure that everybody finishes their externship, you finish it strong, and that you're in the best possible position to launch your career post-graduation. So the title of this presentation is really Externship, Graduation, and Beyond. One of the things that I want to emphasize is just really finishing the program strong. So what I recommend at this point, 3 weeks into your externship, is take a look at your hours and look at your schedule and really assess whether or not you're going to get that full 150 hours by the end of the 6 weeks. If it looks like you might have, you know, a little bit of a shortfall, that's okay. There's some things that we can do to address the shortfall. If you're working 40 or 50 hours every week and you're completing your program, and boy, you're gonna crack that 150 nut next week, great. But don't forget, you still need to have your head in the game with the classroom. So make sure that you're continuing to post on the discussion boards and also watching the live sessions. So maintain your attendance. If you do have a little bit of concern about your hours, you can still find a secondary site, and we've talked about this before. A perfect secondary site might be your local church or your local community outreach. If you think you're going to be even a few hours short or 10 to 15 hours short, boy, if you do it now, grab an externship agreement and a site agreement and a timesheet. Go to your local church that does outreach to the community and volunteer. Volunteer for a 3 or 4 hour session in the morning. Sometimes Tuesdays and Wednesday nights are really good. You can get your agreement signed. You can get your timesheet signed. Submit that to Career Services, and that's a way to just get a few little extra hours, and it can be a buffer to make sure that you're going to make that 150 hours. Also, you have the opportunity to ask for an incomplete. So if there's something that's happened and all of a sudden life's thrown you a curveball, you don't think you're going to make your 150 hours, go ahead and contact us. Talk to your chef instructors, talk to Career Services. We'll put you in touch with the registrar. And there is a way to get an incomplete and a few more weeks, 2 more weeks to finish your program. Be prepared. Make sure that all of your documentation is complete, especially your timesheets. Your timesheets basically are official documents. And all of your timesheets are verified with the employer. Signatures are verified. So go back and make sure that the timesheets that you're submitting are completely filled out, that the signature that's of the supervisor that's signing your timesheet has already been documented on your externship agreement, either as a supervisor or as a proxy. You know, it's summertime. A lot of people are taking vacations. It happens all the time. Maybe a lead line cook's going to step in for a week, sign off on your time, and that's okay. All we have to do is get you to have that lead cook sign a proxy. So again, it's a little bit extra work. You've got to fill out one additional form. You're going to collect the name of the supervisor and their signature so that we can match it to the timesheet. And then just understand that part of the process is we verify everything at the end of the externship. So be prepared to complete strong. I want to talk a little bit about making the most of your externship. Your externship is a great opportunity to kind of perfect what you've learned in the classroom, right? You're getting that practical application in a commercial kitchen. But even more important than that, it is something to talk about on your resume. If you don't have a lot of experience, if you're a career transitioner, your externship experience now is something that you can feature front and center on your resume. So I want you to start thinking about that now. What are you accomplishing with your externship? And how can you use your externship to gain leverage when you're looking for your next career move or you're launching your career? You may want to consider scheduling a meeting with your supervisor or your site manager and just asking almost for like a completion meeting or an exit interview if you're going to be leaving your externship site. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Ask for feedback and just be prepared to take the criticism and the direction very graciously, because what you really want to do is you want to create a network and allies with your, and champions, basically, your own personal champions out of your externship supervisor and your externship manager. So you want to initiate a conversation about what you've been able to accomplish, about your strengths, and then really what are the opportunities to grow? What more do you need to do, especially in light of what your next career move is? So ask yourself, the other thing you want to do when you have this meeting is you want to ask your supervisors, hey, can I use you as a reference? Can I add you to my list of professional references? Because that's going to be important when you apply for your next position. Don't be afraid to express your career goals. Maybe you're working prep now, but you feel you've got the qualifications and you've got the desire to be a line cook. Use that opportunity to talk about what your career goals are. Hey, chef, I'm really interested in being a sous chef. I feel like I've mastered this prepping and I'm interested in a position as a line cook. And then ask for their feedback. What else do you need to learn? What else do you need more experience with? And be specific, be polite, but ask, how much time do you think it's going to take me to gain that experience? As you're completing your externship, whether it's paid or whether it's unpaid, ask about what the next opportunity is there at that organization. Is there an opportunity for you for a promotion? Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, I'm just making it by the skin of my teeth. I know I've got a lot more practice, but that's okay. By asking for a promotion and asking for when the likelihood is, when might it be likely that I could be considered for a promotion? One, you're communicating to your network and to your supervisors that you are a professional and you're interested in career growth. You're going to get feedback about what it's really going to take to get to that next step. And you will have raised the consciousness, if you are staying at your externship site, you will have raised the consciousness of your immediate boss that you're somebody that's looking for a promotion and that you could be next in line for the next promotion that comes up in the kitchen. And then also, don't forget to start a conversation about a post-graduation increase in salary. And again, these conversations can be hard to have. They can feel a little bit awkward, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with letting your employer know, or even your externship site, maybe it's an unpaid externship site, that you're interested in working, and that you're interested in building your compensation based on your skill. And have a conversation. I am graduating on September 27th, and I'm interested to know when I might expect an increase. And then you can just shut up and see what they say. And oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, you know, we don't give out increases until the first of the year, or whatever it is. You can probe that a little bit and say, well, you know, what about for culinary graduates? Is there an increase based on merit or performance? And again, even if the end result of that conversation is that you don't get that increase, you know, you're not going to get that 50 cents or that dollar. Really, you want an extra dollar at least. You're not going to get it now. Again, you put it in the mind of your employer that is what you're aspiring to. So sometimes these conversations are difficult to have, and we all have a lot of anxiety about them, but I encourage you, this is a perfect time at the conclusion of your externship to start to have these conversations. And again, even if you're at an unpaid externship, you can ask, is there a permanent position? What would it take for me to get a permanent position? So I'd like to encourage you to think along those lines. In addition to that, again, you're going to ask your supervisor for permission to use them as a reference when you apply for other jobs, and then also ask for a letter of recommendation. Ask them if they would write a letter of recommendation. And sometimes employers are really busy, especially people in the kitchen. And it's okay to say to your employer, if you think about it in advance, hey, you know, I really feel like I've really mastered my knife skills. I've learned high velocity practices in the kitchen, and I'm a guest service champion. You can kind of tell them and lead them to what you would like to have in your letter of recommendation. And sometimes if you're really friendly and you're on good terms with your supervisor, you can say, hey, could I even draft something to give you some ideas? And oftentimes they'll put a letter together then, and they'll really focus on those skills that you want to represent, which are going to help you again when you're out in the industry post-graduation, looking for that next job and looking for that increase in compensation. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what to expect now in these final 3 weeks, and then after you graduate. So at the end of your externship, we're going to do an audit of your hours. We're going to verify your hours with your employer. You are going to have continued contact from the school. So just because you graduated, it doesn't mean that we're letting you loose. What we're going to be doing is starting a graduate file. Now you're an alumni, and we want to keep you and we want to stay in contact with you. We want to be your network as well. We want you to participate in our alumni association. So I encourage you that when we do reach out to you, please, you know, think of us as a friendly and take our calls, and let's talk about what you need post-graduation. Do you need would you like to have continued service from Career Services? Do you want us to help you just with an update on your resume talking about your externship? There's lots of things that we can do. Do you want some introductions to some of our employer partners? All of those things. Contact us. We'll be contacting you. Once you've graduated, and your graduation date is September 27th. Now, if you complete your hours tomorrow, and you posted attendance, in your mind you might think, hey, I actually graduated September 4th. No, your graduation date is still going to be September 27th. Maybe you're going to need to finish with an incomplete and get those 2 additional weeks to complete your externship. It doesn't matter. Your graduation date is still going to be September 27th. So assuming that all of the audit of your externship is complete and you pass the class, your graduation date is September 27th. Now, It may take 8 weeks to get your actual certificate. So be aware that there's a process that our staff goes through. Like I said, we verify, we grade your externship, then the auditors get involved, then the auditors have to do an actual audit of your grades. There's a certain amount of preparation, and then all of your information goes to a third party, and the third party actually creates the certificate. So you can expect your certificate to come in about 8 weeks from your graduation date. Also, I'm kind of going out of sequence. Thinking back to your externship, so your externship site, and this doesn't matter. Maybe it's an unpaid externship. Maybe it's the job you've been working in for a couple months and now you've done your externship. Maybe it's a new externship and you want a permanent position. Don't forget to say thank you. There's been an investment that your externship site and your employer has made into your professional development, and that's huge. And you want to make sure that you make the most of this opportunity and, again, create a personal champion. One of the best ways to do that is simply to say thank you. I've got a couple of sites up here that have really great suggestions for how to put together a really nice thank you, either for a boss or for a mentor. But don't forget to say thank you. I know we talk about it a lot when you're applying for a position, somebody interviews you. Well, say thank you for your externship site. And again, it's one of the easiest ways to build goodwill and personal champions in the industry. A couple of other things that go along with this. If you are, maybe you have a full-time job and you've worked part-time with your externship. It's 150 hours. You know there's still a lot to learn. There's still a lot that needs to be accomplished, no matter what your goal is. Maybe your goal is it's a retirement goal. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur or a food truck owner. 6 weeks is a short period of time. If you have the opportunity to leverage your externship into a permanent part-time position, that's generally a very wise move because you can continue to learn in that environment. So when you have your exit interview with your employer, ask about a permanent position. If there's not a permanent position, you know you're leaving, your externship site knows this is the end, you're leaving, ask for referrals in the industry. Who does your employer know? Who could they recommend to you? What kind of career path would they recommend, and who should you contact? Also, don't forget to ask for just words of wisdom. You know, ask a couple of open-ended questions and find out how did your boss get to be successful? What do they recommend? What are those intangibles that help us grow a career in the industry? And see what they say. And then a final point is consider joining the ACF, the American Culinary Federation. This is your last chance. If you join before you graduate, you get to take advantage of the student rate, and you get that membership then for the full year. You will also be eligible to be a certified culinarian just by virtue of having your culinary degree with Escoffier and then taking the test. So look into ACF and see if that's something that you might pursue. Sometimes it's nice to just have on your resume. It's also a great built, it's like a turnkey network that you can take advantage of. And I want to back up for a minute because one of the things that I really recommend doing is I'm a big notebook person. I'll just use this as example. I have several that I have. But one of the notebooks that I keep is a notebook of my accomplishments. So when you're done with your externship, take some time and make notes. What did you learn? Who did you influence? What were your accomplishments? Commemorate your start date and your end date. Commemorate your title. You want to keep all this information together because you're going to use it in your resume. And a lot of times, you know, we all rush off. Maybe, again, maybe you have a day job. Maybe you're working outside the industry. So these things aren't top of mind right now. But a year from now, 5 years from now, when you're ready to execute your long-term plan, you're going to be searching your memory for all of those great accomplishments that you achieved along the way. And I think the best way to do that is just keep a notebook of them. You know, you get a compliment, you get recognized for an achievement. Write all of those things down because those are all important things. When we do our resumes, we all put the things, oh, these were my responsibilities. That's great. But what employers really want to know is, what did you accomplish? If you're looking for funds, maybe you're going to launch a food truck and you're going out and looking for an investor. It's your accomplishments and your network that people are going to want to know about. So start a notebook now and just keep it as a running commemoration of what you've been able to do in the industry, and you'll be able to leverage that. That brings me to my final point today, and that's to talk about we're actually going to have an exit meeting or a completion meeting. So you're going to have a graduate checkout with your career service team. Your graduation date is actually September 26th. We'll be scheduling meetings with all of our new graduates the week of October 30th through November 6th. We're going to talk about things like the Alumni Association. We're going to confirm all of your address and contact information so that when it comes time to send out your certificate, it goes to the right place. We're going to talk about whether or not you want help from career services, and if you do, what kind of help. We're going to talk about your plans for a career post-graduation. We're going to confirm your current employment. And then we're going to ask if you want assistance updating your resume with your externship experience. So please keep that on the horizon. That's going to be the week of October 30th to November 6th. And when we reach out to you to make an appointment, we really hope that you'll participate in that employment. And then also have a chance to jot down your questions. Any questions, any requests for information, because we can address that at that time. And then just a final note, you're always welcome to contact Career Services. Career Services is a service that you're entitled to now by virtue of your program and the completion of your program for the duration of your career. So anytime you need a resume update, maybe you're looking to find, you've got a great job, you've applied for it, you want to know who the hiring manager is, and you need some information. All of those things are things that Career Services ultimately can help you with. So please consider us an ongoing resource for you. All right, well, I think that's just about everything that I had on my agenda. And Chef Susie, I don't know, do I have time for a couple questions?
Definitely.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one, Jane. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Okay, it's about the health certificate, the manipulation of food. Are we going to be like having that after graduating, or because we took the classes at the beginning, but I don't know if we're gonna get that certificate including in the whole completion of the program.
Okay, I'm going to defer to Chef Susie on that one.
I think, are you referring to your sanitation certificate, Amelia? Yeah, no, you'll get that in the state that you live in, because each state has a different requirements, and sometimes county to county will have different requirements too. And ServiSafe is a good source for that, and it's usually a class that's a few days long, and then you'll take a test at the end, and then you'll get certified in your state and county.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need help finding something in your area, we can help you. But they usually offer a variety of classes, and you can take a class in person or you can take it online as well. And with your sanitation certificates, if you renew them before they expire, the classroom time is typically shorter. So you want to stay on top of it because they have expiration dates on them. And I know that it's going to vary from state to state and county to county. So you could even contact your public health department for some guidance too. I know in Chicago, we are in Cook County, and we have a state certificate requirement for Illinois, and then we have a separate certificate requirement for Cook County, Illinois too. So some states are like that and some aren't.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that helpful? And you'll do great on the test from what you learned in your reading, and then they'll give you a text or they'll give you reading, and then you'll get a sample test usually. And I know that you guys are going to do great on it.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all good luck, and I'm looking forward to following up with you.
Jane,
Yes?
will you be available to talk maybe later today or tomorrow? I know it's a holiday, but I do have some concerns that I'd like to talk to you privately.
Diana?
Yes.
I will be available immediately after this class. So if you want to give me a call, we can talk later today, or we could talk first thing Tuesday morning.
Okay. What would be a good number? I mean, I've called a couple of numbers, but I don't know which one is.
Let me give you the one that's going to ring right to my personal desk. It's my direct dial number, 402-3.
Hold on one second, please. I don't have a pen.
And Diana, I can give you a call in 30 minutes. Is that
Okay.
just enough time?
Yes, that will help.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay, bye.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for joining us, Jane.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, guys. We're getting there. I'm excited that you guys are almost done. So I know it's a holiday, so we're gonna try and keep this fast. Our reading for next week's discussion forum is working in a professional kitchen. So my question was, we talk about what professionalism we think it is, or it is, and it should be, last live session. So my question today, now that you've been, halfway done through it, is what did your expectations match what you guys are working when it comes to professionalism? Are you working in a professional environment? Are you liking it? Was it a culture shock, like people say, working in a kitchen? I know Sabra's already shaking her head, so I'm sorry, Sabra.
I know. Melissa's shaking her head yes. You want to share your experience with us? You're muted. There she is. Oh, you're on mute again.
I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing?
Hi.
Okay, I'm gonna show you. This is my kitchen that I work in. Ready?
All right.
Okay. I'm making cinnamon rolls. See all this? Doo-doo-doo. There's my ovens and my mixers. I'm solo today. I'm all by myself.
It's a good way to get a lot done. No distractions, right?
Have cooked everything for in the morning. I have made stuff for today. I am ahead of schedule. It was a very good day.
Good.
Professionalism in the kitchen. Let me tell you, this big kitchen, it serves over 2,000 students every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This place books it all the time.
That's awesome. That is very good. And what about professionalism? Do you like your bosses, your coworkers? When you do get to work with your coworkers?
Man, I got 1 day of training, and they are very nice because I have messed up some stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Enjoy that.
Yeah. It's a really good place. If any of y'all are looking for a company, go try Sodexo. SODEX. Oh, they have openings everywhere. Everywhere. Anywhere you want to go, they have openings. Any state. Colleges, hotels, everything.
What about you, Ruth?
So I'm working in a small bakery. Well, it's a converted milk barn, and they bake about 200 loaves of 7-8 different kinds of bread, all artisan bread, all handmade. And then the other 200 are pastries and desserts. And I think the biggest challenge for me is the person that does the pastry is your typical chef type. She does her mise en place, but the person that owns it and runs the bread part of it, she bought it from her sister and she doesn't have any training. So she does it the way she does it, and that's how she wants me to do it, which is without a mise en place. So it's really hard for me to stay on track. And then her formulas, some ingredients will be in grams and some will be in ounces for the same thing, like the croissant dough. And that's just the way they wrote them all. So a lot of the stuff is in ounces, and then, you know, you'll come along to this one thing and it's in grams, and I'm like, you know, I just kind of shut my mouth and, okay, this is how we're doing it. So as far as like what Jane was saying, to ask about, I'd like to be in more of a professional kitchen, because this one is open to a lot of elements. It's just, and the cleanliness is not what I would, you know, it's not to the level that I would like it being, because it's so open. So it's challenging, but I'm learning a lot, so it's good.
Yeah, I know. I've done very little baking, but I know if I'm not mistaken, Chef Susie, most of the baking in a professional kitchen is done in grams, right?
It's typically in grams, but you should choose one or the other. You shouldn't have grams and ounces in the same formula. All of us pastry people know about this, especially when you're doing baker's math. It's kind of crazy. You should stick with one or the other. And yeah, Ruth, these are things that you're going to encounter with, you know, ownership, and when we own our own places, and we'll do things the way that we like to do them. But if your owner has their own set ways, then sometimes we can sway them to a better way, but sometimes we can't.
Depending on personality, and her personality is not such that, because like I'm in charge of whitey, they call it whitey bread, because they call their couches, you know, their couche for baguettes, they call them snuggly blankets. So they have all these cute names for everything. And but this whitey bread, she had all the lids off of the 3 bins of flour, and so I just chose the one that I thought was the lightest, and I pulled that over and I made the whitey bread. Well, when she put the lids on the other 2, it turns out that the flour I got was the malted flour. And so I told her, I said, hey, as soon as I noticed, I said, hey, I made this with malted flour. And she just like, oh my God, well, you know, I haven't played. I'm like, yeah, I know. I said, it was totally my fault. I will pay better attention next time. You know, I just took the ass to it, you know, and just like, okay, yeah. But, and then the next day I got another 15-minute lecture on why it's important that I follow her process exactly. And I'm like, I understand. You want to put out the same consistent product every time. I said, I understand that. I said, I'm really sorry that happened, and I'm really going to work not to let that happen again. But it's the end of the season for them, so they're like at their wits' end of being done with this peak, because they supplied all the farmers markets. They have no retail store. They just supply to farmers markets and other little niche stores. So
yeah, you'll find that at the end of seasons, people are worn out. They're just tired, and they're just looking for the finish line. That's all they want. You'll find that in restaurants and hotels in the end of December. And everyone, just needs to get across the finish line and get to January where they could sleep and do laundry. So you get to a point where you you start getting behind on your personal things when you're working too much and you're just really looking for that finish line. And I've been there myself. But it sounds like you're fitting in really well, and you're, taking responsibility for making bread with malt flour. So, and definitely, it sounds like she has her ways, and you won't be able to change that. Sometimes you can make suggestions and people will listen, but it sounds like you kind of felt her out a little bit, and you can tell that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like that you said, and it comes back to professionalism. You know that this is her place. You make a suggestion, they might take it, they might not take it, but at the end of the day, it's her place. And like I've said before, you also learn from those things. Now, if you open your bakery, you know that all your recipes should be either in grams or ounces. But we learn from the bad, the good, and the ugly, and the pretty.
We do. Yeah, I've oftentimes taken the approach with my staff, kind of letting them have free reign a little bit and showing me what they have, and just to kind of, build on the team and hands on the team. I know that when I had a strong assistant, I would let them take ownership of a project, a big dessert for a special party, designing the dessert, and then, they got all the to-dos at the end. Like, it was her dessert. She did it on her own. So yeah, it's everyone's a little bit different, the way that they manage and run things.
Yep, for sure. Anybody else wants to contribute to the talk? Everybody going well? Just know that when you upload your week 3 timesheet, Chef Susie and I are going to take a look and see how your hours are looking, since we're marking, the halfway point. And if we're getting a little bit worried or concerned that maybe the hours are a little bit low, you're going to get a message from us saying, hey, you have this many hours, maybe let's think about incomplete. But if you're doing well, you're probably not going to hear from us, no good news. No news, good news. But if we're concerned, we're definitely, we don't want, it has happened before where people kind of leave things till the end, and then they're really struggling and rushing through the last weeks. So when you submit your timesheets and we're concerned, we're going to email you. We're going to put you in contact with Career Services to talk about incomplete and stuff like that. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to us. Please stay on course. Everybody has been doing great with attendance, right, Chef Susie?
Yeah, everyone's been doing a good job. And we had Sabra put a little note in the chat that she got an incomplete just to be on the safe side, and that's the best thing to do. Yeah. And the incomplete does not affect your status or your grade or anything. It's just a little extra time that you need to ensure that you get things done.
And if you don't need it, then
it's there for you. Yeah, it's there if you need it. There's a little bit of a process. You contact Jess Stanfill, and then she sends you a form to fill out. So you want to do that early. If you think that you may need it, just kind of get it out of the way like Sabra did. That's a good idea, Sabra.
I'm going to be kind of close on my hours, but I have the option to work Saturdays. So I didn't do it for this Saturday, but next Saturday I'm going to work, which will put me over about 5.5 hours for my whole 150. But I'm getting 28 hours a week, but I started on a Monday instead of the Wednesday before, so I'm playing a little catch up. But I'm keeping an eye on it so that I'll work some Saturdays to make sure I'll have my 150 by the 26th.
Good. And anybody out there if you got affected by the storm, by Harvey, please contact Chef Graham, and he can talk with you and about your options and all that, because we can't fight Mother Nature. So we understand sometimes life happens. So definitely contact him, and he will talk to you about your options. And of course, there's an incomplete too for that. But it won't affect you. We won't be like, oh, oops, sorry. So please do so. And if you have any questions, definitely contact Chef Susie or I. Any concerns, anything like that, we're here to help. And remember, this week's attendance, you guys already have the attendance for being part of the live session. Anybody else, just click on the live session archive, and next week will be a discussion forum. Chef Susie, you got anything to add?
I don't. I think everyone's doing great. This is an exciting time. It's kind of the end, and just be in touch with Jane if you need a few extra hours. It's a good suggestion to do a little bit of volunteer work. If you need just a few hours, you could do an afternoon at your local church or any kind of volunteer work, and that'll kind of help push you over a little bit. So sometimes that's the case, maybe 4 or 5 hours short. So keep those in mind too. It's pretty easy. You just get the paperwork filled out with the proxy, and then you're ready to go.
And definitely take advantage, take her advice, Jane's advice about, it's about time for you to start talking with your supervisors if you want to stay there full time, if you're going somewhere else, reference letters and all that. Definitely start doing that. Nobody else except us know how fast things go when you're working in your externships. 3 weeks are going to be done like that. So definitely start thinking about the future now, where you want to be, where you want to work. If you like the work, you want to stay there or leave, definitely talk those options through.
Definitely. And take Jane's advice about asking for salary increase too. That's important stuff. Your time is so valuable. And if you need help with something like that, just be sure to let her know, and she can guide you through that process. So that's super important. You want to, as she mentioned, ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
At the beginning of my career, I struggled a lot with that, asking for a raise, because chefs, they always make it like almost impossible for you to ask for one, until one point I just said, hell, I'm working like crazy, and I know the work that I'm doing is good, and I haven't been written up, and I haven't done many mistakes. So your time is definitely valued. Never work for free, never work for less than you think you should.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how that's usually well received. It's usually not received in a bad way.
And one thing I do have to tell you, nobody is going to give you a raise if you don't ask for one. Me as a boss, I'm not going to go, oh, hey, you know what, Ruth, you've been doing so great, I'm going to give you a raise. No, you have to ask, you have to run, and you have to fight for promotions, and you have to compete anywhere, not just in our industry. You have to compete to get those spots, right? Like, our industry is no different. Ask for raises, ask for promotions, fight for them, and prove them that you deserve them.
I agree. Sometimes you'll have a boss. I had a boss once that raised us all by surprise on our paychecks, and then we got the surprise when we opened our paychecks. It was like a little present. That was nice. But in all the years I was in the industry, that was the first and only time that happened to me.
And I don't know about you, Chef Susie, but there's been times where I applied to jobs, and even if I've got a no back, looking for somebody else, I learned from the process of applying to that job, because all the industry is different. It's different applying to a restaurant and applying to a hotel, or applying to a hospital or a school. My first, I remember I always apply to restaurants, fine dining restaurants. So for me, my interviews was with a chef that only had 30 minutes to interview me, and then come tomorrow to work for a stage, do it, and then I receive a call 3-4 days later. Okay, you got the job. No, you don't got the job. And then I remember I applied when I wanted to start switching from restaurant to teaching. I applied at high school. And I was so underprepared, because, I got there, and this interview was with 6 people sitting on a table, very professional. I'm like, oh, not used to that. So definitely, I learned how to prepare for different types of interviews by not getting one job. So you learn from every process. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out and just go for it.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's so easy to say, don't be nervous, because we're all nervous at all of our interviews. But yeah, just try to, remind yourself, I have these skills and I should be getting this job and I should be here. And just, kind of let your confidence shine through, and it's going to help you if you try to put your nervousness behind, because sometimes we get a little nervous and we are asked a question and we won't always remember it. So kind of get yourself ready a little bit. Like, I belong here. I should be here. This job is mine.
One of my favorite interviews, it was questions about the job, about me, it was like going from A to Z, and the last question was, tell us a joke. I was like I could not even think about one joke. I'm like, what? So, be prepared for everything. Know your jokes. All right, guys. Well, we're going to let you celebrate Labor Day.
Yeah.
Go out there. Have fun. Happy Labor Day, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for our last live section. Okay?
We're going to say our goodbyes at that time. I know.
All right, guys. Have fun. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.